Robin Williams dropped the microphone. Silence. 2,000 people held their breath. Then the tears came. It was April 1997, at the Paramount Theatre in Seattle. The room was packed, the air thick with anticipation and laughter. Robin had been on stage for 40 minutes, delivering his trademark rapid-fire comedy, voices shifting from Russian diplomats to Southern preachers, from Shakespearean actors to cartoon characters. The audience was in a state of euphoria, their faces aching from smiling, their sides splitting from laughter. But then something changed. Something no one expected. Robin stopped mid-sentence. His body, which had been in constant motion, bouncing, spinning, gesturing, froze. He looked down at his hands. In them was a letter, handed to him moments earlier by a stagehand during a brief pause. The envelope was simple, white, slightly worn at the edges. On the front, written in careful handwriting, were just 3 words. For Robin Williams. The audience noticed the shift immediately. The laughter died down. A few whispers rippled through the crowd. Robin's expression had transformed from manic energy to something else entirely, something vulnerable, something raw. He unfolded the letter slowly, as if it were made of glass. His eyes scanned the first few lines. Then he looked up at the audience, his face pale under the stage lights. He started, then stopped. He took a breath. I need to read this to you. But what was written in that letter would shatter the night and change Robin Williams in ways no one could have predicted. If you want to know what happened next, subscribe now, because the most powerful moment of Robin's career is still ahead. The letter had arrived at the theater 3 days earlier. It came through the usual channels: backstage mail, mixed in with fan letters, interview requests, and promotional materials. But this one was different. The stage manager, a woman named Linda who had worked with Robin on multiple tours, noticed it immediately. The handwriting was shaky, uneven, as if written by someone whose hands could barely hold a pen. She opened it, as protocol required, to check for anything inappropriate or dangerous. What she found inside made her sit down. She read it twice. Then she folded it carefully and placed it in a sealed envelope with a note attached. Robin, this needs to reach you. Linda. For 2 days the letter sat in Robin's dressing room. He had been too busy, too exhausted from back-to-back shows, too caught up in the chaos of touring. But on that night, April 19th, something made him pick it up. Maybe it was Linda's note. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was fate. He opened it 20 minutes before showtime. The letter was from a woman named Sarah. She was 34 years old. She was dying of cancer. She had weeks, maybe days, left. And she had written to tell Robin Williams something she needed him to know before she was gone. Robin read the letter in silence, standing alone in his dressing room. His assistant knocked on the door to call him to stage. He didn't respond. She knocked again. Robin, 5 minutes. He folded the letter, placed it in his shirt pocket, and walked to the stage. But his mind was somewhere else entirely. The show began as it always did: high energy, chaotic, brilliant. Robin launched into impressions, anecdotes, physical comedy that defied the laws of physics. The audience roared. But Linda, watching from the wings, could see something was off. Robin's timing was perfect, his delivery flawless, but his eyes were distant. He was performing on autopilot, his body moving while his mind replayed the words from that letter over and over again. 40 minutes in, during a bit about airport security, Robin stopped. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the letter. The audience thought it was part of the act. A few people laughed, expecting another punchline. But Robin didn't deliver one. He just stood there, holding the letter, staring at it as if it held the answers to questions he had been asking his entire life. Sarah's letter began like this. Dear Robin, you don't know me, but you saved my life once. Not literally maybe, but in every way that matters. She went on to describe a night 15 years earlier, in 1982, when she was 19 years old. She had been sitting on the edge of a bridge in San Francisco, contemplating ending her life. She was alone, lost, drowning in depression she didn't understand and couldn't escape. A stranger had walked by and stopped. He didn't ask if she was okay. He didn't try to talk her down. He just sat next to her, a few feet away, and started doing impressions. Silly voices. Characters from movies. Accents from countries that didn't exist. At first, she ignored him. But slowly, despite herself, she started to smile. Then she laughed. Not a polite laugh, a real one, the kind that erupts from somewhere deep inside, the kind you can't fake. The stranger kept going. For 20 minutes he performed just for her, on that bridge, in the dark. Then he stood up, tipped an invisible hat, and said, "Life's too short not to laugh. Especially when it's long." And he walked away. Sarah never saw his face clearly. The streetlights were dim, and she had been too lost in her own darkness to look closely. But years later, when she saw Robin Williams on television, she recognized the voice. The rhythm. The energy. It was him. It had always been him. She wrote, "I never thanked you. I never got the chance. But I need you to know that because of you, I didn't jump. I went home. I got help. I lived. I met someone. I got married. I had 2 beautiful children. I saw sunrises and sunsets. I laughed. I cried. I lived a life I never thought I'd have." And now, she was dying. But she wasn't afraid. Because of that night, because of that stranger on a bridge, she had lived fully. And she wanted Robin to know that his kindness, his humanity, his gift had mattered more than he could ever imagine. The letter ended with this: "Thank you for giving me 15 more years. I hope you know how much light you bring to the world. Even when you don't see it yourself." Robin finished reading the letter aloud on stage. His voice had cracked multiple times. Tears streamed down his face, unfiltered, unashamed. The audience sat in complete silence. Some were crying. Others were frozen, unable to process what they had just witnessed. Robin folded the letter carefully and placed it back in his pocket. He looked out at the audience, his eyes red, his face raw with emotion. "I don't remember that night," he said quietly. "I wish I did. But I believe her. Because that's what we do, isn't it? We show up. We try. We reach out. And sometimes without knowing it we change everything." He paused, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. "Sarah, if you're watching this somehow, somewhere, I want you to know something. You didn't just survive because of me. You survived because of you. Because you chose to stay. Because you chose to fight. I was just a voice in the dark. You were the one who listened." The audience erupted. Not in laughter this time, in applause. A standing ovation that lasted 5 full minutes. People were openly sobbing. Strangers hugged. Robin stood on stage, letting the moment wash over him, letting himself feel it all, the gratitude, the grief, the overwhelming weight of knowing that a single moment, a single choice, can ripple through time and save a life. But the story didn't end there. What happened backstage would reveal the true cost of Robin's gift, and why he carried so much pain behind the laughter. After the show, Robin walked off stage in silence. He didn't speak to anyone. He went straight to his dressing room and closed the door. Linda knocked gently. "Robin, are you okay?" No response. She waited. 5 minutes. 10. Finally, the door opened. Robin stood there, his face strained, his eyes hollow. "I need to find her," he said. "I need to meet her." Linda had already anticipated this. She had tracked down Sarah's family through the return address on the envelope. She handed Robin a phone number. "Her husband," he said, "she's at home. Hospice care." Robin made the call that night. He spoke to Sarah's husband, a man named David, who could barely hold back tears as he explained that Sarah had been holding on, waiting, hoping that somehow her letter would reach Robin before she was gone. "She wants to meet you," David said. "If you're willing." Robin didn't hesitate. "Tell me where." 3 days later, Robin Williams sat in a small living room in Bellingham, Washington, holding the hand of a dying woman he had saved without ever knowing it. Sarah was frail, her body ravaged by illness, but her eyes were bright. She smiled when she saw him. "You came," she whispered. "Of course I came," Robin said. "I should have come 15 years ago." They talked for hours. About life. About fear. About the strange, beautiful, terrifying fragility of existence. Sarah told him stories about her children, her marriage, the moments that had made her life worth living. Robin listened, really listened, in a way he rarely allowed himself to in the chaos of his career. Before he left, Sarah took his hand one last time. "Promise me something," she said. "Anything. Don't ever forget that you matter. Not because you're funny. Not because you're famous. But because you're human. And your humanity saved me." Robin nodded, unable to speak. Sarah passed away 6 days later. Robin attended her funeral. He didn't perform. He didn't speak publicly. He just sat in the back row, quiet, grieving a woman he had known for only a few hours but who had changed him forever. In the months that followed, Robin carried that letter with him everywhere. He kept it in his jacket pocket, folded and refolded so many times it began to tear at the creases. It became a reminder not of his fame or his talent but of something deeper, the power of showing up, of being present, of choosing compassion even when the world feels dark. Years later, in interviews, Robin would occasionally reference that night, though he never named Sarah, never shared the full story publicly. He would say things like, "Sometimes the smallest gestures have the biggest impact. We never know whose life we're touching." Those who knew him well understood. That letter had cracked something open in Robin, something that had been buried beneath decades of performance, of hiding behind characters, of using laughter as armor. It forced him to see himself not as a comedian, not as an entertainer, but as a person capable of profound, life-altering kindness. And it haunted him. Because if he had saved Sarah without knowing it, how many others had he missed? How many people had needed that same light, that same voice in the dark, and he hadn't been there? The weight of that question never left him. This moment changed Robin Williams forever. It reminded the world that behind every joke, every character, every burst of manic energy, was a man who understood pain deeply because he had spent his life trying to heal it in others. If this story moved you, share it. Subscribe. Because Robin's legacy isn't just laughter, it's the lives he touched without ever knowing. And that matters more than any punchline ever could. In the years after meeting Sarah, Robin's performances changed in subtle ways. Those who knew him best noticed it. He would pause longer between jokes, letting moments breathe. He would make eye contact with audience members, really seeing them, as if searching for another Sarah, someone else who needed that connection, that lifeline. During a performance in Boston in 1999, Robin stopped mid-show again. This time, he noticed a young man in the third row who wasn't laughing. Everyone around him was doubled over, but this man sat still, his face blank. Robin walked to the edge of the stage, knelt down, and spoke directly to him. "You okay?" Robin asked, his voice gentle, stripped of performance. The young man nodded, but his eyes told a different story. "It's okay not to be okay," Robin said. "I mean that. Sometimes just being here is enough. Just showing up." The young man's face crumbled. Tears came. And Robin stayed there, at the edge of the stage, until the man nodded again, this time with something like relief in his eyes. The show continued, but that moment lingered. Several audience members later said it was the most powerful thing they had ever witnessed, not the comedy, but the humanity. Robin never stopped carrying Sarah's letter. He would take it out sometimes, alone in hotel rooms between shows, and read it again. The paper became so fragile that he eventually had it laminated, preserving the words that had become his compass. In one of his final interviews, months before his death, Robin was asked about the moments in his career he was most proud of. He didn't mention his movies, his awards, or his iconic roles. He talked about a bridge in San Francisco. About a woman named Sarah. About the power of showing up for people, even strangers, even when you don't realize you're doing it. "That's the thing about kindness," he said. It compounds. It echoes. One moment can ripple through decades. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you get to see that ripple come back. Sarah's letter remained with Robin until the end. It was found among his personal belongings after his death in 2014, still folded, still worn, still carried. Her words had become part of him, a quiet reminder that even in our darkest moments, we have the power to be someone's light. And sometimes that's enough.